Hello and good evening to our friends Tracey. And we are delighted to have Jerome from JayMacCustoms with us this evening on the Mets in the UK podcast, bringing you all things Mets from a UK perspective. Good evening, beautiful Tracey. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, my darling?
I'm all righty, thanks. It's impossible not to be right now. Jerome, thank you for joining us. Welcome.
Yes, Toria and Tracey, thank you for having me. I really appreciate the invite. Recently with everything going on with OMG, there's been kind of an opportunity to talk more about the my Mets fandom. So I appreciate you giving me time on your platform.
Absolutely. And that's exactly where we will get started. So, of course, you've not just suddenly become a Mets fan, you've always been around. So tell us a little bit about your fandom and where it began.
It began as a 10-year-old watching the '86 Mets in the World Series. It was a time where I was allowed to be up late. So what kid would say no to that? And magical stuff happened. We had a guy parachute out of a plane, who, in fact, his name is Michael Sergio. I met him in my last job that I was working before I decided to kind of call it quits working for other people and working for myself. I was running a storage facility in Manhattan, and he had his stuff there. And I was like, "You're the guy! Like, you're the guy who jumped out of a parachute." And he gave me a lot of like different information, but he never gave up who the pilot was. So that still remains a mystery to this day. So yeah, from being a kid going to games, at the age of 12, like going to picnic games in the picnic area where it was always rowdy. There are ways to sometimes sneak into the stadium, which I'm not sure if I did or not. I'm not going to give that up, but there were a lot of times where it would be a great way to hang out, and have a lot of fun with your friends and sneak a few beers or have legal age beers, which for any children that are watching this, we only drink legally aged. But it's a great time. There's such a big part of my childhood, and growing up in the '80s and '90s and going to games like the '90s Mets were a struggle of a team until we got closer to the millennium, and we started putting together some really amazing teams, and that was the first time I really started taking my fandom like super seriously, and became a partial ticket plan holder, and then I ran a streak of about 13 or 14 consecutive opening days, and then life happens. But all the while, I mean, I've watched through the ups and downs of losing game one to the Yankees with Armando Benitez blowing a save, and then kind of working your way into '06 and being disappointed by the devastating Adam Wainwright curveball. The curveball got Beltran. It wasn't Beltran. He thought he saw something different. The ball was just amazing, and the guy's a Hall of Famer. That's what it's going to be. And going through the Madoff era and the transfer of ownership, and right now, I feel like a kid again. I feel as excited as I've ever been about the team because we have a team of people that don't give up. And I think those are the teams that somehow make it into the playoffs and make some noise. So I'm just really hoping and praying that that's what this season turns out to be.
We all are.
Absolutely. And it's, you touched on it there. It's fun right now. It's so much fun.
So much fun.
And I guess, that plays into, I think what you've managed to do is take that vibe and turn it into something tangible, right? The vibe existed. It was there. And somehow you then were able to give something that's tangible, that we can get hold of, that we can see, that we can feel, that we can flaunt. How did that come about? Where did that thought come from?
I'm in a Mets Discord, and we talk about things that are happening all the time, and we all knew what Jose Iglesias was capable of because we know that he was an all-star. We know that we got him, and he was making some real noise in AAA. And I think at the time when he came up, we really needed him to kind of step in and give Jeff a little bit of a break, because I think that Jeff was being really hard on himself and struggling with his approach. And you take some pressure off one guy, you bring somebody in who's not expected to be an everyday player, and he's performing like one, but not performing like just an everyday player, but like an exceptionally above average player that became a difference maker. And while all that was going on, he had a song that he had recorded and brought it into the clubhouse, and we all knew about the stories of this song. But the I guess the story got bigger when they were talking about it on Sunday Night Baseball, and I watched the interview with Eduardo Perez and Francisco Alvarez, and he was talking about what's been the changer of the thing that's kind of changed the vibe. Was it Grimace or was it OMG? And then Alvarez was like, "Oh my God, OMG!" And then he started throwing his hands up. He said, "Every time we hit a home run, we're like, oh my God. Every time we win a game, we're like, oh my God. Every time we do something good, we're like, oh my God." And then we all knew too that same week, that Friday, they were going to be releasing it, on all platforms. So I was looking out and figuring out, like, what can I do around this? And I was thinking about possibly making one in the Jersey font, or maybe even the like the Tiffany font, but I ended up making it based off a shirt that Jose had gifted to his entire team, that kind of glow in the dark, the green and blue, the neon colors, which they're cool in their own right, but they're not Mets colors. So I figured, hey, you know what? I could take that design, I can render it and put it through and cut it on my machines and sand it, paint it, and deliver it, and do that all in about 24 hours. So that's what I did. I started the drawing of it on Thursday. I cut it on Friday morning, and I made two of them to bring to the stadium with me on that Friday. I made an orange letter over blue background, and I made a Grimace version because Grimace was still kind of alive and kicking. I wanted to pay the proper respects to Grimace, and we were trying to keep Grimace alive and relevant, because yes, there was a lot of buzz and mojo around Grimace. So I did a green background with a furry purple haired Grimace. So I get out to the stadium, and I'm there at about 4:00 because I want to get people hyped. I'm taking pictures in front of in front of Citi Field, the Apple. I'm letting some people hold it. People are like, "Oh my God, I want to buy that from you," and I'm like, "No, it's not for sale. I'm probably going to gift it to the team somehow." And then I was hearing that there's a party at the K Corner, so I went over to the K Corner, the bar that's attached over in right field. So I went there before the game, and there was a party in there. There were a lot of people showing up, and I saw Mr. and Mrs. Met. I took a selfie with them, and that was fun. And then I hear Alex behind me, and I've had some conversations with Alex in the past, and she's had a couple. I've given her a couple of things that I made, and she's always been incredible. And she says, "Oh my God, Jay, what are you doing with this?" I was like, "I'd love to give it to the team. Is there any way that you could help me with it?" She's like, "Absolutely, but you have to sign the back first."
That's so cool.
I didn't sign the back because I really was just rushing to get there. I signed the back, and I put an inscription on there to the team and Jose, and she brings it to the clubhouse. I had no idea that it was going to get to the field. In the third inning, when Tyrone Taylor hit his home run, I got a text message from a friend, and he's like, "Holy crap, your sign is in the dugout." I'm like, "What do you mean?" And then he sends me a picture of Starling Marte with his hands on top of it in the dugout. I was like, "Wow, that's pretty cool." And then Twitter starts finding it, and it says, "Listen, they've got their new home run celly," because then Pete Alonso hit a home run, and then Jeff McNeil hit a home run, and they all held it. And I could tell you, for the first 25 home runs, I knew who hit a home run in the order of who had it, because I was really hoping to see who's going to have the best pose. So the coolest pose happened on Wednesday, July 3rd, where Francisco Lindor had his head to the side and he's holding it. That might have been their fifth home run of the game. We were up 5-0. Against Washington. That was the game that we blew on July 3rd. The sign broke. The O popped off.
Oh no.
Because of so much use. It was never meant. See, it was made it was made like this. This has no coating on it. So if I shake it, or if I'm holding it up, something's gonna go flying. You put it down and the vibration or whatever. So I was in a matter of like 20 minutes, I had like 150 messages on Twitter. Like, dude, your craftsmanship is bogus. Like you're a fraud. Like, what are you doing? So I turned around, then 2 days later made a new OMG sign, and two of my friends drove up with me. We drove up to Pittsburgh and delivered the one that you see in the dugout now to
That's the one
Pittsburgh,
with the
which is
handles
like
on the back,
a
right?
6. Yeah, it was like a
Yeah.
6-hour drive. So when we were out there, I mean, we almost blew the game, but then we came back and won it in surprising fashion against, they're a gritty Pittsburgh team, but we had both signs in attendance, and it was like furry weekend. They had like a furry con in Pittsburgh. So I had the Grimace, and there was a lion-haired Mets fan that was wearing like a Mets jersey with a big like lion furry thing with the Grimace sign on the right, and then we're on the left, and they've been using that for SNY commercials, and it's been a whirlwind. It's been such an incredible ride, and there's like a million stories that I could share that people really seem to love it, and I'm just grateful to have given something to the team that they're using, and people are starting to find and recognize the things that I do artistically and creatively as a result.
And I imagine like you wouldn't have thought for a second that it would have taken off the way that it did, right?
I had zero expectations that any of this would happen, like zero. Like in fact, as an artist and a creative, like I have my business is making signs for businesses. Like I make signs, I make signs for homes, I make signs for businesses. I make a lot of like custom tables and stuff like that using the tools that I have. And, I make out all right, but you go through the fluctuations. Like it's a luxury. It's not a necessity to have a sign in your home. It's not a necessity to have a custom table that you could have excuse me, sorry, you could wait for, and I was seriously considering stopping being in my business and looking for work, because it's when you have inconsistent runs of business, it makes your share at home
Of course.
a little less.
Yeah.
And I'm tremendously grateful that my wife has been so supportive of me and my journey in being a creative, to even have the opportunity to do this. And I feel like right now is like such a different time, because instead of me doing it all alone, like I'm pivoting and finding folks work to help me out and
Wow.
get things done. And instead of having 10 orders in a week, 10 orders has become 50, 60.
Wow.
Like I have about 120 orders to ship out in the next like week and a half, and it's something that like it's been phenomenal. And to see something that I've made transition into something that's being sold inside of the stadium store. They've had an OMG giveaway day like on a Saturday afternoon. I got to announce play ball and be on the field and get on top of the dugout with the sign. Like it's, to me, it's like the 10-year-old kid in me is just like, is this really happening?
That's exactly what I was gonna suggest. Like, the 10-year-old you that was watching the '86 Mets. I mean, you wouldn't have dreamed that would happen. I get the burning question that I have: does Sevi have his own sign? Like, does he have one that he has? Because I swear that man does not let it out of his sight.
He has his own sign, but he hasn't received it yet. That's about all the story that I could tell about it, because it'll come out. It'll come out. There's a little bit more to the story, but I really can't give that up at this point. But a sign was made for him, and it really hinges upon his attendance somewhere. And that's all we can do. And there's a lot of podcasts that are out there in this Mets community, which I absolutely love. I mean, there's probably about at least 25 different podcasts that I can like announce right now off the top of my head of Mets fans, and I'm grateful for everyone having a unique thing that they bring to the table. But this one is very Met centric, like the rest,
Yeah.
and
Uh-huh.
they have more access than probably most do, and
Uh-huh.
that's all I'm saying. You probably figured out who it is by now.
Yeah,
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
fair.
but when he finally does, meet them, and takes a bite at the apple, he'll have his sign. If his
Very
agent's
cool.
listening, tell your man to go to this specific spot, and he'll know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get on it, Sevi. Get on it. I mean,
Yeah,
I
there's
think
one for him for sure.
it's just honestly, it makes me chuckle every time because he takes it so personally.
It's
It's like
just,
he has,
it's
yeah,
just like,
he
it's
has,
my sign. You're not having it.
yeah. I swear
Honestly,
he gets like separation anxiety when he's got to start. He's like,
protect Sevi at all costs. Like honestly, he had some really really great years as a Yankee, and I feel like
Mm.
I feel like there's a rock star in there, and I do feel like sometimes that no shade at the Yankees, they're a very very buttoned up organization, and
Yeah.
how they have fun may show up a little bit differently than how other people have fun. So the fact that he's been able to, grow facial hair and,
yeah,
kind of,
express himself.
express himself and, wear like the amazing like red and black Louis Vuitton outfit, like walking into the
Yeah.
stadium. Like, I don't know that you're allowed to do that going into the cathedral. I don't know.
Probably.
I don't know. But he seems to be having a lot of fun, and the fans were all behind him. And
Yeah.
it was a great signing, one of many by David Stearns. And
Yeah.
I hope that we could find a way to keep him within the rotation for years to come, to help some of the younger guys coming up and developing.
We love Sevi this side of the pond. Sevi the stud. We absolutely love him.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
So to before we get into to the on-field stuff with the Mets, so what is next for you? What else do you do? I know it's not just Mets things you do. You mentioned you do a lot of custom stuff. So give us a bit of a taste of some of the other stuff that you do, and if you've got anything in the pipeline that's coming up next.
Yeah, just stuff that you're happy to be shown.
Yeah, let me see if I have some photos of stuff that I've done that I could queue up.
Yeah, that'd be
this
cool.
is some
And
of
if
Bowers
you
and Met stuff.
fire them over to us as well, we can whack them in our comments as well afterwards.
Yes.
Well, one of the biggest pieces that I've done in the past like couple of years was actually not a Mets piece; it was a Yankees piece.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah, I made a a Christmas gift for. Actually, you could see it here. This was a Christmas gift that was made for Aaron
Wow.
Judge.
Oh, cool.
I was commissioned
That is
by
cool.
one of his teammates, one of his minor league teammates, to make this. And the reason how he found me was because I had shipped something to someone that it didn't arrive in time, and it's a friend of mine, Mark. I shipped him a piece and it didn't arrive on time, and he was like, "What am I going to do? I can't show up to this party empty-handed." So he told me this 2 days before. So I made him a replica of it, and we sorted out that UPS lost it, and he was so grateful that I did that he got me in touch with Aaron's former teammate, and I had about a 3-week lead time to get it done, and I knocked it out. It was all hand painted, cut, and it's probably one of the pieces that I'm most proud of, even though it's a Yankees piece.
That's
Last
okay.
year I did some pieces for the 50th anniversary of hip hop. So if you guys know Ice-T,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Law and Order SVU, great rapper. Yeah, I did a couple of pieces for his studio.
Oh, that is cool.
Wow.
So
I love that.
That is really cool stuff.
and I've made custom pieces for business, custom pieces for like people who've attended my my former alma maters. But then I had gotten a weird call and I wasn't really sure if it was like a crank call or something, but I found I started having a conversation with a guy from the Savannah Bananas, and
You love the
he actually
bananas.
didn't play for the Bananas. He played for the Savannah Party Animals, and I was like, this guy is like, I want to bottle up his energy, because if I could bottle up his energy, because like between the two of us, like I could talk and chatter a lot. So please, if you have a timer, like please keep me on time.
Don't worry about the time.
But his name's Brandon, and Brandon and I were talking, and like we had like a 30-minute call scheduled. We were on the phone for an hour and a half, and we were just talking about New York and the Mets and the Yankees and what it's like to play for, this amazing, extreme kind of baseball event in the Savannah Bananas. And
Yeah.
he said, hey, tickets are hard to come by. You could look up the prices. Would you be willing to do like a barter agreement with me where I'll get you whatever tickets you want to get on me if you make me one of those pieces like the one you made of Aaron Judge? And I made him a piece, and I went up to see the Savannah Bananas up in Hartford, and it was super entertaining. It was like one of the most fun experiences that I've had watching baseball. And I think that there's a bunch of things from the fan experience that Major League Baseball teams can definitely lean into. They do like sing-alongs and stuff like that, but it's different when like the entire stadium is expecting it, and like you have one side of the crowd doing it, the other side of the crowd, and then like if you catch a foul ball and like the bottom of an inning, if you catch it, it's an out, like for the final out of an inning or a final out of a game. There's just a lot of quirks that, not that it would it would fly in baseball, but it made the level of fan engagement that much different.
Yeah, I'd love to attend a Savannah Bananas game, because we see a lot of them over here, and we follow on YouTube, and I follow guys on LinkedIn, and like it's just fun, just so much fun.
Yeah,
and
so
it's
much
a little
fun.
bit different. It's not going to be Major League, but it's just it's
entertainment. It's showbiz.
It's entertainment. That's a good way to put it, Trace.
They're like the Harlem Globetrotters of baseball.
Absolutely.
And
showcase.
But it's a showcase. I mean, these guys are super talented, and some of them could probably play Major League Baseball, and sometimes all it just takes is one shot.
Yeah.
And so, if people want to find you and find your work outside of Twitter, where are they going to go?
They can go to Instagram to JayMacCustoms, all one word, JayMac Customs. I'm not sure if you have it on the thing there. I think I have it there. Yeah. And then the other way to get me is at my website at JayMacCustoms.com. And on that website, you can see the OMG wooden pieces that I make and sell, but I also have now OMG pins that you can see here on this hat.
Do you ship to the UK?
I do. I just don't know how many quid it costs, and I say that word because I have a good artist friend from out there that says, I can't believe it cost me 40 quid to ship over the pond, and I'm like, I don't even know what quid means compared to what the US dollar is, but if it's $40 just to ship a pin, you're probably going to have to buy more than one to make it worthwhile.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But I'll ship anywhere. Like. If you're paying, I'll ship wherever you want me to ship it to.
We can
just ask him for a friend.
Just
and I'll show you another one of the custom tables that I make. So this is a New York City subway map table that's resin and wood. So all of the water that would be in the East River and the Hudson River is on there, and like all of the train stops are carved in, and then the table legs are subway tokens. So. I try to make art that I would like, that would then I put on my website or I put on Instagram, and I've gone either through raffling it or people will just buy it outright from me. But I have a couple of other like sports organizations that I'm talking to right now that I can't like reveal just because we haven't signed any contracts yet. So things are starting to kind of unfold. and I just hope to kind of see him through. And as long as it's in the sports that I know and the sports that I like, I can kind of vibe with it, or I just kind of go and experience something that I haven't experienced before, and dive into it. I'm here to help.
It's just amazing that your creativity is opening up so much and being seen everywhere now. I mean, it's everywhere. And like I said, I think for me, I think the biggest thing, the way to kind of sum it up, is it's that manifestation. You were saying before we started, it's not, you haven't created OMG, you haven't created that vibe, but what you've done is given something that people can see and cling to and picture. And I think we are all very, very grateful for that.
I'm grateful
absolutely.
to do it. I mean, the behind me there's a Yankee piece that's on that shield up there.
Hasn't gone unnoticed.
I made that, and that piece was a piece that went viral because I made a gift for a friend who's a Yankees fan. So I made that, slapped the subway map on it, coated it with resin, because my friend got me a pair of sneakers that were really hard to come by, and he had some connections, and he wouldn't take my money. He said, "It's my 50th birthday. Make me something special." So birthday and Christmas, because they're right next to each other, I brought him that, and the process of making that was just like, I must have had 500 people ask me, "Can you make this for me? Can you make me a Mets one?" And then it just kind of started a whole domino effect of like me, wanting to, make sports related art. Because I was just painting shoes and doing all, other types of art. And it was my side thing. And it just got so busy that I was able to kind of, step away from my day-to-day type of work and focus 100% on creating for a living.
And that's kind of answered Jimmy's question, because Jimmy wanted to know kind of how you got started. I think you said to us before you were originally doing shoes and stuff, and now you're able to I guess, almost kind of pick and choose what you do and don't do, right? You'll be able to focus on the fun stuff that you want to be doing rather than the perhaps slightly more mundane things.
My wife and I met 6 years ago this month, and we had our first date. It was on September 4th, and about 2 weeks later, she was visiting me at an art show that I had. Actually, 3 weeks later, she was visiting me at an art show that I had on a street in Queens. It was like a big street fair, and I was out there doing pencil sketches and ink sketches for people. And from that point to where I am now, doing the different stuff that I am now, kind of changing mediums and going back and doing more wood cutting, because I was doing wood cutting years before that. I sometimes get bored with the stuff I do and I want to try other stuff. The only thing that I haven't done that with is the Mets. I've never said, "Hey, you know what? I'm getting bored of the Mets. I don't like what's going on. I'm going to do that." But the type of art, art's so subjective that, sometimes different mediums are going to speak to you more than others, whether it's sculpture, whether it's, fine painting and what have you. I try to gravitate towards the things that I like, and that's horror movies, comic books, baseball, football, basketball, and sneakers.
Of course, you have mentioned. From now on, everybody's going to be peeping your sneakers as they go past to make sure that they're on point.
I think that I have the best pair of Met sneakers in probably the world, and I would put this pair of shoes that I have against any other pair that's out in the market.
Better than Lindor's his cleats. And...
No, listen, Lindor's sneaker game is and shoe game is on point, and I'm talking about regular fans. I'm not talking about players, because they have access to to different things. But I work with other artists, and I had a guy customize a pair of sneakers for me, a good friend of mine, and he took apart a pair of the Mets Dunks that they had from last year, the high top ones. We ripped off the top and we rebuilt it up with a blue and white soles, orange swooshes, but the baseball jersey that we used was the Justin Verlander jersey because he got traded. So we used that as the inner sock liner as well as the side panels. And on the tongue tab, it's a home plate, and it says LFGM on the back heel instead of Nike, and QGTM, which is Queens Get the Money, on the other heel. And I wore them on opening day, and a lot of people were taking pictures and asking, like, what can I do to get those? And my friend charges a lot of money for them. Like, when you're really good at stuff like that, you have to charge because they take a good amount of time. So I'll always say I think I have the best pair of shoes. I know there's a lot better, but it's also too because they're mine.
Of course. Feel free to drop us a picture.
Oh yeah, it's actually one of the first reels that you see on Instagram. It's my second or third pinned reel. It's on there, and you see the whole making of it.
Oh, amazing! We will check that out for sure. Speaking of checking out, shall we have a chat about what our boys have been up to?
Absolutely.
Let's do it. So we will I'll try and keep it as brief as possible. Rosie's given up. She's gone to sleep now. So she's no longer going to be bothering us.
She does like to guest on our pods.
She really does. She gets jealous if I'm talking to other people, you see.
I can imagine.
Since we last recorded, we wrapped up season sweep against Boston, a series sweep against Boston, giving us back-to-back series sweeps. We won game 2, 7-2, thanks to an explosion in the 8th inning, a bit of small ball and a Pete Alonso homer. Peterson was solid again, going another 6 innings, allowing only 1 run. We followed that up the next day with game 3, securing that sweep with an 8-3 win behind McGill, who'd made the start again for Blackburn. Quite heavily supported once again by the bullpen. Got off to a great start in that game with that first inning grand slam from Jesse Winker. Oh, that boy, he's been so much fun. Then,
yes,
I wasn't mad about the fact that we had a day off on the Thursday, not going to lie. I was quite ready for it. I know momentum is important, but it was nice to have a break. We will come back to what Jeff McNeil got up to on his day off. Yes. We'll get to that shortly. But then we followed that with opening the series against Cincinnati. We were down by 2, but then we came back to get that walk-off 6-4 win. Love a walk-off, although it was getting pretty late at that point. Second home run of the day for Vientos at that point. Another win for Manaya, yet another starter going long, 6.2 innings. Martinez was back. He got an RBI on his return. Congratulations on the birth of their daughter. And we had the Diaz brothers facing each other. That was pretty fun. Yes. That was a lot of fun. I would have loved for that to have been kind of meaningful, but obviously with it staying tied, it needed to go into the 10th. They wouldn't have both come up if one or the other had won, likely. Game 2 had that pretty lengthy rain delay, which was really frustrating, especially for us over here, Jerome, because Saturday home games are relatively kind to us timing-wise. Yeah. So we get all excited for a nice Saturday evening and then delayed. But it did not seem to quell the spirit of everyone. In fact, all of the footage I saw, everyone was still partying. And that carried us to that full 4-0 shutout. Quintana, again, 6 2/3 scoreless. And that took us to our 9-game unbeaten streak. Unfortunately, that came to an end on Sunday. Couldn't quite another series sweep. Could not quite get to the magic 10 in a row. It was a bit of a lackluster game, really. But it took them till the 9th to get there. We just couldn't respond at that point. But there was, of course, the season was over according to most of Mets Twitter. But it was
right. I hope they're still watching, though, because
exactly.
It's okay to say you're wrong, guys. It's okay.
We forgive.
We just had an opportunity to then start a whole new streak, which we did last night in Toronto. McGill got the start again. It was expected to be Blackburn. That was a late change after he was still suffering with some back soreness. McGill made us a little bit nervous, perhaps, in that first inning, but then stormed through and was absolutely solid. Danny Young gave up those 2 runs in the 7th, but we came back in the 8th to secure the win. It was a tight one, but we got the win nonetheless. And the loveliest thing about last night for me is Mets in the UK friend Jan is actually in Toronto with her Jays fan husband, Trev.
Wow.
So they were watching a game together of their teams playing against each other for the first time in over 20 years of supporting their teams.
Wow.
Last night was the first time they got to sit and watch them together up in Toronto. And we are very much hoping that Jan is still up in the win column by the end of this series.
And still talking to her husband.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be pretty nice. It might be a bit of an uncomfortable...
Right. That's the most important, but
so how are we feeling? Second. How are we feeling after this last week of games, folks?
Buzzing, still buzzing, loving it.
No, I think the momentum is clearly on our side. I think that teams are starting to look at us with a little bit of fear. I think that you're going to get a good pitching matchup. You're going to have guys that aren't going to give up at bats, and our lefties are. It's not just our lefties, but our whole starting pitching has just been lethal in the past 6 or 7 weeks. They've been really putting us in position, going longer in games, which has conversely helped out the bullpen. I just think that the run continues. I think they're taking care of the games and winning the games that they're supposed to win. It's not a conversation like, well, you should have taken 3 out of 4 from Oakland. You shouldn't have, split that series. It's not that conversation now. It's just like, there's work to do, and you're seeing the work and you're seeing the belief, amongst the players and the fans. Like, we're not expecting to lose the series. We're expecting to win again tonight and hopefully seal the deal tomorrow. So it's a great feeling, because you need that to go into these even more important games against the teams in your division, where we can gain some real ground. And maybe, listen, we have a shot to steal the division. We have to win every game against Philly. We have to.
Yeah.
Yes. And we're not going to win 18 in a row, but there was also people that were saying that we weren't capable of pulling off another 8-game winning streak or 7-game winning streak, and we just pulled off 9. So the fact that we own the 3rd wild card, that we're a game out of the 1st and 2nd wild card in terms of like the loss column, is a big deal, because a couple of more games, putting them together, these teams are knocking themselves off. We might be sitting in the catbird seat as we get closer to the final weekend of the season, where we don't have to sweat it out and worry about what other teams do. Like, we're going to kind of hopefully be in a place where we can control our own destiny, but there's still a lot of baseball to be played. Could have a string of bad games, and not wishing that on the team. But, I do think too that this team is really locked in. We're well managed. And I believe I'm a big believer.
Can I just say, I've actually got some faith in our bullpen for the first time in I don't know how long.
All right, Phil Maton has been outstanding, aside from giving up the runs against Cincinnati. Stanek, is really mixing it up and throwing gas and complementing it with a really biting splitter. So, like, this is what we signed these guys to do, and the fact that they're doing it and taking some pressure off the Diaz's and the Budos, Budo has been phenomenal since transitioning to the bullpen. I mean, what more can we ask of him? And, how are we going to be when Nunez comes back, and let alone, where does Senga fit? It's just, I don't know. Things are just kind of lining up, and it just feels like, I just wish we didn't lose Jeff, because I really like what Jeff brings to the team when he's right. And he struggled for most of the season, but he's had one of the best OPSs in baseball since the All-Star break. So to lose that bat, he doesn't give up at bats, and there's an edge that he has when he's competing like that not many players have. So
That's right.
we'll see
Jeff
what
is like,
that looks like.
yeah, he is like a terrier. And you mentioned, we are currently, as we record, we are one game ahead of the Braves in that third wild card slot. Currently at 79 and 65, we're just one behind Arizona, who you mentioned that these teams are knocking themselves out. Right, Arizona have just fallen apart. Only 1.5 behind San Diego, and still, and I'm going to keep mentioning it, I keep getting scoffed at, right? I'm told I'm the optimistic one, right? We are still only 7 games behind Philadelphia in the division. And as I said last week and the week before, and probably the week before that, until it is mathematically not possible, it's possible. We still have Philly to play. So that is
theirs to lose.
Exactly. And we know how that feels, sadly.
Yes.
We've been there, right?
Yes.
So, you used the word before, Jerome, momentum. That's exactly what we have right now. It feels like all of the pieces are there. The other things that have been going on this week, of course, sadly, we lost Ed Kranepool yesterday, the most tenured ever Met at 18 years. He joined us in 62, was part of that incredible team in 69. That's a feat it's never going to be matched. We are not going to have an 18-year Met again. The guy was Mets through and through. So as Mets in the UK, obviously, we send our condolences to his family and friends. And I think that's a loss that is being recognized not just within the Mets organization, but across baseball, and quite right. So it's that was very sad news to get at that time as well, right before the game was. But I believe he was actually watching the Mets game at the time, which is quite fitting.
Yeah. Yes.
Noah Syndergaard has been chatting this week about a potential return to New York. That's exactly the reaction that warrants, Tracey.
Yeah.
He wants to finish his career in New York, apparently.
Yeah, he has said he loved playing in New York. He loves the atmosphere of New York and wants to be a Met again. What do you think, Jerome?
Well, he doesn't follow me on Twitter anymore. He blocked me. I was, when he started kind of going into like the new age stuff, and I followed his Twitter and his Instagram for years, and he kind of lost me with all of the grass-fed beef memberships trying to sell, and the book club and all that. I'm like, dude, what about baseball? What about let's focus on baseball? You were one of the most imposing players, and because you threw so hard, and you had us believing, and then we offered you a contract, and you negotiated with another team and accepted a contract. Like, that kind of stuff doesn't fly with Mets fans. So a lot of us don't want him back. And when you played for another team and you had an opportunity to play against us, you weren't pitching against us. So, like, to me, it just, I don't know. At the time, like, I was really, I don't know what his psyche is. I really don't. When he was right, he was one of the best. Yeah. Like, he was by far like one of the most imposing pitchers we had. There was nobody better on that staff than Jacob deGrom. But Noah was absolutely an imposing presence, and I just wish that he could have picked it up after his injury, and we could have maybe seen him for another season rather than it going out the way that it did. But I think when you're kind of left, and you kind of left out there in the lurch, as a fan base, or as an organization, it doesn't really bode well for a reunion, because we already know how that went.
Exactly. I think he burned his bridges somewhat, and he should have thought about that at the time if he considered that he might have wanted a return. I don't think he'd get a particularly warm reception.
No.
We had a few roster moves. So obviously JD came back from the paternity list. So DJ Stewart went back down, but then came back up because Jeff went and played golf with Minkone, who broke him. And we
Yes,
are
Minkone, it's all your fault.
The guy took credit for fixing Jeff. So it stands to reason that he can accept blame when, mysteriously the day after he's got a fractured wrist. So
he got hit on the wrist.
He did, but obviously playing golf the day before has obviously weakened it. So
it's obviously all Minkone's fault.
We're taking the opportunity to blame Minkone because he was so pleased about fixing him. So,
man.
It's the added strain, you see, of playing golf for the day. The added strain.
He also struck out. He struck out Mike Trout, right? Also in the minors. We all know what's happening with Trout now. So maybe it is Minkone. Maybe it is him. I've never met him personally, but I've never met him personally, but I see his account. He's very active, and I think it'd be kind of funny to say, "Hey, man, you screwed up, Jeff. Man, it's your fault."
I told him. Yeah, I told him.
Yeah,
no shame.
He's a big boy. He's a big boy. He can take it. He follows us on Twitter, so I'm sure he'll see this and laugh at us.
He can take it.
Yeah,
but because of that, DJ came back up, which was a little bit of a head scratcher given that we're bringing up an outfielder for an infielder, but okay. We then signed Eddie Alvarez, immediately brought him up, sent Pablo Reyes back down. Eddie seems to have brought a little bit of energy. I'm not
spice
about that. Yeah.
Yeah, he scored a run last night.
He did indeed.
Yeah.
And he's Mr. Two-time Olympian, so he's got some athletic ability. He could be another little. It's what we were saying about those kind of pieces just falling into place at the right time.
But he wouldn't be eligible for the postseason.
No. But he's going to help us and going to give us an opportunity to rest people and fill in some of those spaces between now and then.
He'll plug the gap.
Well, I mean, I definitely think that giving Iglesias a rest every so often is important because I don't know if you guys saw the other game when he came into home, he slid into home and wound up doing a kip up to kind of get back. I'm like, this guy, is there anything he can't do? He goes 100%, between like the way that he dives for ground balls in the infield and breaks up double plays. And
I was going to say, some of the double plays between him and Lindor. I'm a defense girl, so I love nothing more than a double play. So seeing those two turn those double plays just melts me.
It's been phenomenal.
It really has.
The Saturday game, we were sending lots of messages to each other. Did you see that double play? Yeah, it was fantastic. Yeah. And that one, that was amazing too.
Look at him. And one more little piece of potentially Mets-related interesting news is former first-round draft pick that we didn't sign, Kumar Rocker, is due to be called up by the Rangers this week. So I'm sure a few of us will have our eye out to see how he gets on with his was it dodgy shoulder he had? Dodgy arm, dodgy shoulder?
Yeah, it was a shoulder MRI or whatever that revealed some type of potential issue.
Yeah. So it'll be I think we'll have half an eye on that to see how he gets on.
Yes. Yeah. Before we continue, there is some breaking news.
Oh.
Lindor has been announced as the 2024 Roberto Clemente Award nominee for the New York Mets. So please vote for him, guys, because it's well deserved.
Absolutely. He does a lot. Between now and our next recording, we have similar to games in Toronto. We've got Peterson and Mania coming up, so let's not worry too much about those games. I think we will be looking to continue our strong pitching form. Nothing is a given, but let's hope that we get a couple of nice wins to wrap up that series there. Then we have a day off on Thursday. Then the small matter of starting our series against the Phillies. We have 3 games in Philly, the first of the 7 that we have coming up against them. Again, beyond that, we will have a game against the Nationals at the start of that series. Let's not worry about that for now. Let's focus, shall we, on 3 games against the Phillies. I mean, that's literally around the corner now, and there's so much that could be resting on those games. How are we feeling?
Well, I'm going to Saturday's game with the 7 line, so I just got tickets today, and I wasn't planning on it, but like I put a lot of work in this week, and it's not that far from where I live in Jersey to get down to Philadelphia. So we're going to go. We're going to go out there and be heard and smuggle in an OMG sign or 2 and hopefully hoist them up every time that we hit a dinger and, hopefully, come out of there with at least winning the series. I mean, I would love to go down there and take all 3. But they're a tough team. They're a tough team for a reason, and their record is what it is for a reason. They're a tough crowd. They're all of it. They're absolutely deserving of their place in the stands. They have a loaded offensive team, but we've been pitching well and defending well, and some of the mistakes that we've made in the field that have kind of cost us games against them aren't quite happening right now. So
that's right.
I feel like we learned something about ourselves playing them that June 9th game in London where we won. So I feel like we can go toe to toe with them, and we probably wouldn't have lost that first game if Marte doesn't lose that ball in the lights. It might not have ended the way that it did, but we lost 6-2 that game, and it probably should have been a lot closer. It was the game was a lot closer than 6-2.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
But I think also that second game in London was almost it was almost the start of this one. I know it's been predominantly from post All-Star, but you saw kind of almost like the shoots of this recovery of the team at that point. And I think had it been against almost any other team, it wouldn't have perhaps felt as big a deal as it did at the time. I think the fact that it was against the Phillies, having lost quite heavily the day before, I think it kind of gave them that belief that actually, yes, we can compete with these guys, and we have something to offer, and we are so much better now than we were even then. If you look back to our roster then and to how we were performing then compared to how we're doing now. And particularly our starting pitchers, we've mentioned it a number of times over the past few weeks on the pod as well, about how it's been a noticeable change in the length that we've been getting out of our starting pitchers. Mm-hmm. We weren't doing that then. We are doing that now. Unfortunately, the Phillies historically have had their moments with fundamental errors. They've kind of eradicated a lot of that. So we're going to have to, we're not going to be able to rely on them giving us the game. We're going to have to take it, which means that our offense needs to be going, our pitchers need to be solid. But it feels like there's optimism, right? Nobody's dreading it.
Yeah.
And we have the momentum at the moment. Like we said, we are 9-1 at the moment. They are 7-3. In the last 10, I think we can at least take 2 out of 3.
Well, look, if we win the next 2 games and they lose the next 2 games, it's a lot different going into a series.
Absolutely.
Having a 7-game lead than it is having a 5-game lead, because you're at least not counting well, they could pass us. Well, we could tie them if we win all 7. That's not exactly passing them, but we can take it from them even by losing a series and sweep. You know what I mean? Like we still have a really, really puncher's chance of putting the pressure on them for once. It's funny. Like I've talked about this with a bunch of people about where things are kind of stacking up. Like this feels like the revenge tour. Like this is a
Yeah.
revenge tour, right? We've always gotten knocked out by Atlanta, and to kind of jump past them, that's step number one. We've seen Philadelphia win the division over us, and we've folded and them been the recipients in like
Yeah.
07 and 08 with
Yeah.
them kind of leapfrogging us in the standings then. So that's two teams that are ahead of us, right? Then we lost to San Diego on that game 3 with Joe Musgrove and his shiny ear against Chris Bassett, who we play tonight.
Yeah.
So we have to get revenge on Bassett too, because you know what?
Giving it up.
You didn't do your thing when we needed you to. And shout out to Chris Bassett. I mean, it's a tough market to play in. He acknowledged that. He was one of the first people to say that, and he pitched well all year. But just in the most important game, he came up a bit lame. The one guy that did was DeGrom, which all the teams that I mentioned, Arizona is the only one that I don't really have a necessary like a real beef with, because we always seem to play them well. So I just. Why not us?
Why not us? I love that. Speaking of love, we are gonna wrap up with some quick fire questions for you, Jerome. It's something that we do when we have guests on. Just a few, very, very quick. Don't think about it. It's probably stuff that you've been asked already before. Tracey, would you like to ask them?
Favorite Met, past or present?
Favorite Met, past or present, Mike Piazza.
Nice. Good show.
Current? Who's your current fanboy moment for?
It's really tough. I mean, it's hard not to say Francisco Lindor, but I'm gonna say Jose Iglesias because we're connected. We're blood brothers.
Of course, I love that. That was you were like,
and
oh yeah.
We've had so many like really great conversations, and he's been so supportive of me helping to kind of like drive this thing, and I give a lot of credit to him for bringing that and inspiring me, because without that I'm probably not talking to you guys today for sure.
Love that. Next one. Oh, okay. Favorite
you have another
Mets
one?
moment. Oh yeah. Your favorite Mets moment. Anytime, whether you were there or not, or something that you've heard of in the past.
Well, before OMG happened. All right.
Before
OMG, it was September 21st, 2001, where Mike Piazza hit the camera well and hit the game winning home run. It wasn't the game winning, but it ultimately was the game winning home run. It was deciding. It was the deciding moment in the game. Came against Steve Carsey, who pitched for my alma mater, high school. He was like a star pitcher at Christ the King High School in Queens, so it was kind of fitting that it happened against him. But it was an important time, like on the anniversary of September 11th tomorrow. We're talking about this. I was at that game, and I remember how heavy it was, and baseball really uplifted us. I mean, I cried like a baby after that home run. I cried during the national anthem. I cried during God Bless America. There were so many points in that game that made me really understand the value of life, but also the value of sports and kind of helping people move on from things. And you can't discount that. People talk about it like crazy, but living through it and living through that moment and getting by, we needed that. Yeah. And that's why he's my favorite player too, because I don't think anybody would have stepped up in the moment the way that he did. He was so locked in, and he had to be the guy.
Yeah. He helped a city heal.
Oh yeah.
Okay, and one last one for you. You have a golden ticket. You can sign any player, current player, to the Mets roster. Who are you going for?
If are they a free agent, or are they currently under contract and I could sign them?
You can have whoever you want.
Yep, you can sign any player, no restrictions.
Any player, no restrictions. That's a tough one. Uh, any player. I needed a moment because there's so many.
Yes.
That's fine.
Any player, no restrictions to play
Yeah,
for
it
the
could be a
Mets.
pitcher, an outfielder, it can be a DH, it could be whoever you want. Doesn't matter what position they play.
Man, I mean,
You know, we said these questions wouldn't be hard.
considering the current shape of the roster, like the roster is intact. So none of our
Yeah.
guys, we already have them. So it's just adding something to them.
Yeah.
It's like it would be between like 3 players for me.
Go on.
So I gotta narrow it down.
So
I'd
give
say
us your thought process. Who are those 3 players?
So I want the Mets to sign Juan Soto in the offseason because he's a generational talent. He's 24 years old and he's got the world on his shoulders. He's a fantastic player. He's just an on-base machine, a threat in all counts, somebody who could really move the needle. And you're seeing that with the record that the Yankees have.
Yeah.
I just don't know that he doesn't. I also don't know that he's. I really haven't seen him really be clutch. I mean, he's provided clutch moments, no doubt. He obviously won a World Series at the age of 19. But the other person I'd say would be Aaron Judge, because Aaron Judge is producing video game numbers, and he would look good in the orange and blue. He could play 3 different outfield positions. He's a DH. He's a leader. He leads by example, and he's going to produce in clutch moments. I've seen the guy be tremendously clutch. He just hasn't hit in the playoffs yet, so that's another reason. But Bryce Harper is like,
Oh, I like that.
he is one of the most clutch performers ever, and I always find that I respected the players that I hate the most, and I've hated Bryce Harper the most because he always seems to give it to us.
Yeah.
And always, like, even from that celebration in London, sliding on his knees and doing like this epic celebration that is very much a nod to soccer or football, as you call it. But the guy just he just has it. Like, there hasn't been a player who's had the fanfare of him kind of coming in from high school and being this prodigy and someone who was supposed to be a can't miss. Like, he's delivered. He just hasn't won a World Series, and he's led his teams to the World Series. And I'd love to knock him off, but I think he'd be a great Met. But I just don't see it happen. He's going to retire a Philly. That town loves him, and good on them. Like, they got the right guy. So if I was to narrow it down to 3-3, I'd say Soto.
Soto.
Okay.
Well,
Because Soto's realistic.
Yeah, it's not beyond the realm of possibility.
I think we could get him in the offseason, right, Steve? Yeah, I think it's Soto.
But do you think that Harper would be able to handle like the New York media and the New York fan base?
The Philadelphia fan base is just as tough, and their media is pretty rough too. Their talk shows, their columnists, they could be just as rough.
Yeah, but he's got to give them something to get on his back for, and he just doesn't, does he?
He hasn't. He's lived up to his contract, like, from day one.
Yeah, he just produces, so he wouldn't even need to worry about it. Amazing. Thank you so much. We are gonna wrap it up there for this evening. We have absolutely loved having you with us, Jerome. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me as a guest. I appreciate it.
No, it's been a pleasure, honestly. And I'll track you down at home close when I'm there. I'll come and find you. From Tracey and myself and all at Mets in the UK, you can find us on all of the socials at Mets in the UK and use the hashtag MITUK. Give us a shout, give us a like, give us a share, give us a follow, all that fun stuff. But till next week, there's only one thing to say, and that is, let's go Mets.
Let's go Mets.
Take care. Thanks for having me on.